Bright QT. Every student matters.
Hello students, today we will be taking up chapter 6 from your English reader textbook. The name of the chapter is Expert Detectives. So before I start the chapter, I would like to ask you, do you know of any detective, or do you know who is a detective? Well, a detective is a person who solves crimes or mysteries. Do you know any detective? Well, I have read a book written by Sherlock Holmes, who was actually a very famous detective. There are movies made by many people which are actually based on Sherlock Holmes mysteries. Have you actually ever solved any problem or any mystery in your life? Alright, so before we start the chapter, we'll read the snippet and understand what this chapter is all about, and then we'll proceed to the chapter.
Nishad, a boy of 7, also called Seven because his name means the 7th note on the musical scale, and his 10-year-old sister Maya are very curious about one Mr. Nath. Then one day, the children's marbles roll into Mr. Nath's room, and Nishad gets a chance to see him. Is he a crook on the run? Why is his face badly scarred? Why has he no friends? Nishad's mother, a doctor, knows Mr. Nath as a patient who is very polite. So this chapter is about 2 kids and one Mr. Nath, the kids were very curious about Mr. Nath, and this boy Nishad and his sister, 10-year-old sister Maya, they were the 2 kids, and they were curious about Mr. Nath. They thought that he is kind of a criminal, probably. They were curious because his activities and his looks appeared to be as of a criminal. However, their mother, who was a doctor, she knew Mr. Nath as a patient who was very polite. Let's start the chapter. As we walked back towards the clinic, Seven said, "He doesn't look anything like a monster, Maya. But did you see how thin he is? Maybe he's very poor and can't afford to eat." So the 2 kids are having a conversation between each other about Mr. Nath when they are walking back from their mother's clinic to their home. So seven is this boy Nishad. Nishad means the 7th note on the musical scale. So Nishad means the 7th note. So everybody used to call him Seven. Seven said, "He doesn't look anything like a monster, Maya." So he says, "He doesn't look like a monster. I don't think there is something wrong with him. He looks okay. But did you see how thin he is? Maybe he is very poor and can't afford to eat." And then he says, "But did you notice? He looks so thin. He is so pale. Probably he is very poor and he cannot afford to eat." As in, he doesn't have enough money, sufficient money to buy food for himself. That is why he's so thin. "He can't be poor if he's a crook on the run. I told him. He is probably got millions of rupees stashed away somewhere in that room." Maya says, "He cannot be poor, but if he's a crook on the run." So Maya thinks that this fellow, he is some kind of criminal who is on the run. On the run means that he is running from the police, and he cannot be poor. Probably he has millions of rupees stashed away somewhere in that room. The room where he stays, he lives, probably in somewhere in that particular room, he has put millions of rupees in a corner in where nobody can actually find. Stashed mean to just pile up or to just, hide something. So stashed away somewhere in that room. That's what Maya thinks. "Do you really think he's a criminal, Maya?" So Seven asked again, "Maya, do you really feel that he's a criminal?" "He doesn't look like one." Nishad looked doubtful. So Nishad says he is in a doubt. He is in a confused state of mind about Mr. Nath, and he says, "Do you really think he's a criminal? By his looks, probably he doesn't look like a criminal, though." "Of course he is 1-7, I said, and Maya again said very sternly, "Of course, 7, he is a criminal. And he certainly isn't starving. And I'm sure that fellow is not starving, as in he is not poor. That impression which we are getting of his, that he is poor and not able to, buy food, that is not true. He is not starving, I'm sure about it." Mr. Mehta told us that Ramesh brings him his meals up from the restaurant downstairs. So Maya is telling 7 that Mr. Mehta had told us, Mr. Mehta had already told them that Ramesh is probably some other boy, he brings up meals for Mr. Nath from the restaurant which is downstairs. So this is Nishad, this is Maya, and this is Mr. Nath. We can see how Mr. Nath looks. He looks pale. His face is all wrinkled, yeah? He has grey hair. He gives a very old look. But Maya, Mr. Mehta told us he doesn't work anywhere. So how can he possibly have money to pay for the food? Nishad said. Now Nishad got more curious. He asked Maya, "Mr. Mehta told us that Mr. Nath doesn't work. He doesn't have any job. Then how does he have so much of money to buy food?" Nishad got confused again. So let's read what happened further. "Exactly," I exclaimed. "He must have lots of money hidden somewhere, maybe in that trunk in his room. It's probably full of silver and gold and jewels and..." So Maya says, exactly to what? When Nishad says that Mr. Mehta had told them that Mr. Nath doesn't work anywhere. So Maya said, exactly, that's why we are wondering how Mr. Nath is paying for the food. He is certainly not starving. He must have lots of money hidden somewhere in that room. Probably in that trunk, probably there's some kind of trunk in his room, probably he's hidden some silver, some gold, some jewelry or something." So Maya, kept on thinking and, just making up stories in her mind. What could have been there in Mr. Nath's trunk? "What rubbish!" Nishad interrupted. Listening to all such stories by Maya, Nishad interrupted, "What rubbish!" He could not believe that Mr. Nath probably is a crook, is a criminal. "I know I'm right. Stupid," I told him. "By the way, 7, did you see his scars?" So Maya says, when Nishad said, "What rubbish," Maya says, "I know that I'm right. You are not believing me, you're doubting my imagination, but I know that I'm right. Mr. Nath is a criminal. By the way, have you noticed the kind of scars he has on his face?" he asks Nishad, to make sure that actually there's something fishy about Mr. Nath. "I couldn't. It was too dark. But I bet he got them during a shootout with the police or something." Then they say, "It was too dark, so I could not see the scars, but I am guessing that probably he would have been escaping from the police, and police would have, shot at him, and that is how he's got that scar." To make sure they both are talking to come to a decision and to convince each other that he is actually a criminal. "Mummy told us quite clearly they were burn scars," Nishad said firmly. So when Maya was explaining that, "Have you seen the scars? I couldn't see them properly because it was very dark, but I am sure that they are because of some kind of shootout, some kind of encounter with the police when he would have been running from them. That is how he would have got the scar." Nishad said in a very stern tone, "Mama told us very clearly that they were burn scars. It has nothing to do with the police or the shotguns or anything of that sort. They are burn scars. Probably Mr. Nath would have got burned somewhere sometime." Perhaps the police had to set his house on fire to force him out, I suggested. 7 looked unsure. Now Maya, she is having a doubtful mind. She is trying to convince Nishad on how Mr. Nath is actually a criminal. So when Nishad countered that there were burn scars, burn marks on Mr. Nath's face, Maya immediately said, probably the police had to set his house on fire because he was not, surrendering to them. He was some kind of a thief or a criminal. So 7 actually looked unsure. He wasn't sure what Maya is actually talking about, or how can she talk like this, or how she's so sure about Mr. Nath. On the Monday following Mama's birthday, 7 went alone with her to the clinic at Girgaon as I was spending the evening with a school friend. So the following Monday, it was their mom's birthday, and 7 went alone with her mother at Girgaon clinic. There was a clinic of their mom at a place called as Girgaon. So that day, it was Mama's birthday, and 7, he went alone, leaving Maya at home. As I was spending the evening with a school friend, Maya was spending the evening with some school friend. When they returned, Nishad told me he had been to see Mr. Nath, and I felt almost annoyed that I hadn't been there. So when they both returned back, their mom and Nishad told Maya that he had gone to meet Mr. Nath. And that very moment, Maya felt very annoyed. She felt angry because she did not go. She wanted to see Mr. Nath. Probably she had her kind of questions. Probably she wanted to make sure. Probably she wanted to dig out more about Mr. Nath. So she got annoyed on learning that Nishad had gone alone to meet Mr. Nath. 7 had been quite upset about Mr. Nath's gaunt appearance. Gaunt means sickly, as in ill. It looked like Mr. Nath was so ill. He gave a very sick appearance. He looked very sick. 7 had been quite upset about Mr. Nath's gaunt appearance and was sure that he was starving. 7 was upset because he somehow knew that Mr. Nath was actually starving. He is poor, he doesn't have money, and those marks are the burn marks, and he looked very, very ill, He told me that he had knocked loudly on Mr. Nath's door that evening and said, "Open the door quickly, Mr. Nath." So Nishad told Maya that when he had gone to meet Mr. Nath, he knocked the door very loudly. We all knock the door when we have to enter somebody's room, right? We knock the door. So he knocked the door very loudly and then called out for him, and he said, "Open the door quickly, Mr. Nath." The man had opened it and asked him, "Lost another marble?" Mr. Nath thought that probably the kids have lost another marble. They would have been playing something with the marbles, and probably the marble would have just rolled down under the door of Mr. Nath's room, and that is why Nishad has come over and knocking or banging his door, calling out for him, "Open the door, Mr. Nath." So the moment he opened it, he asked him, "Lost another marble?" He had obviously recognized my brother. Mr. Nath, of course, recognized Nishad. "No," said Nishad. Nishad firmly said, "No." He had taken the man's hand in his own and thrust a bar of chocolate into it. Nishad was kind of a compassionate fellow. He was very kind. He had thought that Mr. Nath was starving because he did not have sufficient money to eat. So what he did was, he just took Mr. Nath's hand in his and handed over a bar of chocolate into his hand. "Did you get a chance to peek into the trunk, 7? I asked. Now Maya was curious. She was already annoyed that she could not go and meet Mr. Nath, and Nishad went alone. So out of curiosity, Maya asked Nishad, "Did you get a chance to peek inside?" "What do you mean by peek?" "Peek. peek means look quickly and secretively, as in to look somewhere without anybody noticing. So Maya asked Seven, did you get the chance to just look at the trunk? What was there actually inside the trunk? Maya asked this. Nishad looked disappointed. He didn't even ask me in, he said. Nishad, he got very disappointed, and in a very disappointing tone, he said, he didn't even call me inside. He just spoke to me at the door. He didn't even invited me to come inside. Then he smiled, but I did found out something, Maya. And then Nishad said, but I have something to tell you. I could find out something. I went down to the restaurant where Ramesh works and talked to him. So Nishad had gone down to the restaurant and spoke to this fellow Ramesh, who used to get food for Mr. Nath from the restaurant which was there at the downstairs. Good for you, Mr. Detective, I said, patting him on the back. I hope you questioned him properly. So Maya, she felt happy. At least they've got something on. So she said, good for you, detective. He calls Nishad as Mr. Detective. She said, good for you. I said, patting him on the back. She patted Nishad on his back. I hope you questioned him properly. Maya says, I hope that you've questioned Ramesh properly, as in you've questioned everything. You have all the answers, whatever we were thinking about Mr. Nath. Seven looked pleased. He was happy. Ramesh told me that he takes 2 meals for Mr. Nath every morning and evening, and 2 cups of tea, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. So Nishad had the answer, and he started telling Maya that when he had spoke to Ramesh, Ramesh told Nishad that he takes 2 meals for Mr. Nath every morning and every evening. So 2 meals he takes morning and evening, and 2 cups of tea, 1 in morning and 1 in afternoon. Ramesh says he is not very particular about what he eats. It's always the same food. 2 chapatis, some dal and a vegetable. Mr. Nath pays cash and tips well. So Ramesh had told Nishad that he takes 2 meals every day, 1 in evening and 1 in morning, and 2 cups of tea, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. Mr. Nath is not very peculiar about what to eat and what not. It is the same regular meal every day, 2 chapatis, some dal and a vegetable. And Mr. Nath pays cash. It is not that he doesn't have money. He pays cash and tips well. Tips well means he even gives a little tip to Ramesh. Tip as in some kind of extra cash for the help or for the service the person is providing. See, tips well means gives a generous tip. Money in thanks for the services. Whatever service that person is providing. So tip means to give some extra money for that kind of service as a gesture of saying thanks. Ramesh told me something very strange, Maya. So 7 again added to whatever he was telling. He said, Ramesh told me something very strange. 7 added, almost every Sunday he carries 2 lunches to Mr. Nath's room, and the same man is with him each time. He is tall, fair, stout, and wears spectacles. Ramesh says his visitor talks a lot, unlike Mr. Nath, who hardly speaks. So 7 tells Maya that Ramesh had given a very, very important but strange piece of information, which was that every Sunday, it's almost every Sunday, there is a visitor at Mr. Nath's place. This visitor, his looks are like, he is a tall fellow, he is very fair, he is stout as in very strong and muscular, and wears spectacles, and he wears glasses. So Ramesh, he carries 2 lunches on every Sunday to Mr. Nath's room. And it is the same person who visits him almost on every Sunday. Nobody else visits him, it's just the same person. Ramesh says his visitor talks a lot. This fellow who comes to visit Mr. Nath, he talks a lot. On the other hand, Mr. Nath is a quiet fellow, he hardly speaks. Well done, Nishad, I told him. So Maya says, well done, Nishad, you've got some really important piece of information for us. Now that we have made some progress with our inquiries, we'll have to sort out all the facts like expert detectives so that we can trap the crook. Now Maya, in a very confident manner, she says, now that we have gathered some kind of information, we should start the inquiries exactly like the expert detectives do, so that we can lay a trap, so that we can plan, so that we can, make some kind of plan to track the criminal, the criminal Mr. Nath was. Sort out means arrange systematically. We'll have to sort out, as in arrange, systematically, as in plan in a proper manner. How do you go on, Maya? 7 sighed. How can you possibly imagine he's a crook? He looks so ordinary. Crook means criminal, as we all have read earlier. So now 7, he is kind of disappointed once again. He's kind of upset. He's kind of confused. And in that tone, he asks Maya, how you do go on? How can you think on those ways? How can you think on that line that Mr. Nath is a crook? He looks so ordinary. There is nothing, extraordinary about him. There's nothing so peculiar about him. He's such an ordinary looking man. Why do you think that he is a criminal? Criminals can look quite ordinary, Smarty, I retorted. Maya, in a very retorting tone, she said, criminals can look quite ordinary, Smarty. She tells Nishad that criminals can look really ordinary. Did you see the picture of the Hyderabadi housebreaker in the papers yesterday? He looked like any man on the street. Nishad looked doubtful. So Maya tells him that have you in the newspaper yesterday, there was this picture of the Hyderabadi housebreaker. He looked so ordinary. He looked like just another man walking on the street. So she tells Nishad that there is nothing extraordinary or peculiar about any criminal. For that matter, she gave the example of this Hyderabadi housebreaker who looked so ordinary like any other man on the street. Nishad got more confused. The monsoons broke the next day. Dark clouds accompanied by blinding flashes of lightning and roaring rolls of thunderburst with all the fury flooding the streets with a heavy downpour. So now what happens? From the next day, monsoons break. As in, it started raining. Monsoons have come over. Dark clouds, it was all dark. The clouds were all black, grey, accompanied by blinding flashes of lightning. It was all lightning. It was continuously raining. There was thunderstorms. There were lightning was happening, and the streets were flooded with water because it was pouring cats and dogs. School was to have reopened after the summer holidays, but no traffic could move through the flooded roads, and there was an unexpected holiday. From the next day, the schools were supposed to open, but because of this kind of weather, where the streets were all flooded, it was all traffic jam. The vehicles just could not move because of the flood which was there on the roads. So it was an unexpected holiday. A holiday which was announced was unexpected. I thought I would spend the time usefully. I sat at my desk in our bedroom with a sheet of paper before me. So now Maya thought, I would spend the time usefully. I'll use that time. I'll use that holiday in a proper manner, in a creative manner. So I'll do something very productive. So I sat at my desk in our bedroom. She sat at the study table in their bedroom with a sheet of paper before her. She laid a sheet of paper on the table and started thinking or probably writing something on that sheet. Coming to the comprehension check. Comprehension check is basically to check what are the thoughts or some questions what we have read till now. So first question is, what did Nishad give Mr. Nath and why? What did Nishad give Mr. Nath? Nishad handed over a bar of chocolate. I am not framing the sentence for you, just writing single words. You can frame the sentence yourself. Nishad gave a bar of chocolate to Mr. Nath. Why did he do so? Because he thought that Mr. Nath is starving. He is poor. I'm just giving you the hint. Mr. Nath is poor and starving. You can write down the answer yourself. I have given you the hint. What is strange about Mr. Nath's Sundays? So what was so strange about the Sundays? There was a person who used to visit Mr. Nath almost every Sunday, and he was tall, he was stout, he used to wear spectacles, he was fair, and he was very talkative. And Ramesh used to get two meals on every Sunday, one for Mr. Nath and one for that particular person. I hope you will write the answer yourself. This is a very easy answer, almost a one-liner, probably a two-liner. You can write on your own. Answer number 3, why did Nishad and Maya go to holiday? Why did they get a holiday? Because the weather changed. It was a thunderstorm. The monsoon had broke out, and the roads were flooded with the heavy downpour, right? Roads were flooded. Monsoon had broke out. Monsoon broke out. Roads were flooded. Lightning. Thunderstorm. So these are the pointers. You can write the answer yourself. You can frame the answer yourself. These are very simple answers. So I'm not giving you the complete answers for these, right?